Weiter. Welcome to our straight and simple Gemara Shiur. Yeah, Gemara straight and simple. Shabbos, Kuf Mem Hey Amud Beis, Kuf Mem Hey Amud Beis. Everyone's welcome to join us. We're in Me'am Lo'ez in Ramat Bet Shemesh Aleph in Eretz Yisrael. We are learning an Agadah Gemara and Kuf Mem Hey Amud Beis. Very, very interesting Agadatis. Yes, stay with us to listen to the Agadatis. And towards the end of the Shir, after we finish with the Agadatis, we'll start learning the halachas of opening bottles on Shabbos. Very, very, very relevant. Can't promise mamash halacha l'maiser, but instead of just knowing about yes, no, plastic, metal, at least we'll get a better understanding of the sources of everything and the reasons for everything. Right now, we're not yet into bottle caps. Right now, we're the Agadata. Yes, we're kind of in the middle. The Tanya. We learned before in the Gemara that the two Amoraim, Rabbi Chia bar Abba and Rabbi Asi, were talking amongst themselves, and they pointed out that the birds, the chicken that you eat, the ternegoilis, in Eretz Yisrael is not as fat as the one in Bavel. The ones in Bavel, they have gesunte flesh, good meat, the chicken meat, the poultry, and in Eretz Yisrael, not as much. And the question is why? So they gave another reason. They said it may not be true. V'chulei. Here, Rabbi Yochanan, the great Amoira, who was now giving the answers to the. Okay. Okay. Weiter. Sorry for the break. Zoom. So now the Gemara gives you a source, a different reason. Rabbi Yochanan says, why is it that the birds in Bovel are fatter? So he said, Shenema, they never went to exile. The birds in Bovel never went to exile. They were there, stayed there all their lives, and they got fat. They're very complacent, very happy with life. Life is good, stable, happy-go-lucky. Bovel, Chutz La'aretz. It says, Shanan Moav min Urav, v'shokot ol shmo, v'begol l'holach. Moav, representing Golus, Shanan means complacent, also modern Hebrew, min Urav, from his time of his youth. Shokot ol shmorov, it keeps its sheket, it's always quiet, nice, calm. Begol l'holach, it never went into Golus. And the animals in Moav and Bavel never experienced the horrible experience of being exiled. That's why they stay fat. How do you know that the ones in Eretz Yisrael did go to Golus? The Tanya Obida says, Nun Beis Shona, 52 years. La'over Ish Yehuda. We know that Golus Yehuda was 70 years. However, in reality, only 52 years were the harsh part of the Golus, or nobody was in Yehuda. Nobody whatsoever, for 52 years. Why? Because 18 years before the end of the 70 years, 70 minus 18, 52. 18 years before, there was like a trickle of Jews, those who came to start re-establishing, and building the base of Mikdash Sheni, right? How do you know that nobody was in Yehuda, including animals? I will cry over the mountains, great, weeping and crying. Even the oifa behema, even oifa shamayim, even the birds in the sky and the behema, the animals, even they nodadu. What's nodadu? They started going away, exiled. They were exiled. Nodadu beholchu. They were like vagabonds. Nodadu. They went away. Why does it say behema? Behema is an extra word because the pasuk before it already says the word mikne. Why do you have to say behema? Behema begimatria chamishin mitartin havu. 52 years were the harsh years of Golus, so nobody was in Eretz Yisrael. But the pasuk behemas gematria 52. Besides that, though, the pasuk pshat of the pasuk is telling you that behema did not live in Eretz Yisrael. The animals too, together with the people, were goyla. And we all know the concept mentioned by the Ramchal and the Nobe Chasidus also. Animals are affected by human beings. If you behave in an immoral way, the animals around you also start behaving in a funny way. It's actually scientifically proven. Animals are influenced by the behavior. And I guess the Golus was so hard that some of the animals also went away together with the people. Amar Yaakov, Amar Yochanan. Oh, this is where we finished off last time. Amar Yaakov, Amar Yochanan, Kulan Chozru, all the animals that went to Golus Bavel, Chozru, they got back, they came back to Eretz Yisrael, Chutz Mekulas Hispanin, except for that special Spanish fish, and that fish that lived in Eretz Yisrael never came and went to Bavel, never went back to Eretz Yisrael. The Amar Rav says, anyway, how would fish go back from Babel to Eretz Yisrael? If you know the geography, there's no sea, yeah, between Babel and Eretz Yisrael. Between Babel and Eretz Yisrael, what do you have? Jordan. There's no sea between them. Therefore, explains Rav as follows. And also, we have to understand why is it the kulis is spanning, meaning that particular fish was the only one that did not go back from Babel to Eretz Yisrael. Why? The Rav says Rav as follows: Hani Madri de Bovel, Madri is like Midron, the slopes of Bovel. Yeah, you have slopes of Bovel. In other words, the Bovel, we know Bovel is a land which is very flat. Iraq, it's all rivers, right? The Euphrates, the Tigris, it's flat. It's a flat land. And Eretz Yisrael, many times in the Gemara, described as a high land. Gavo Mikol Arotas, while Bovel is the lower land. So now, those Madri de Bovel, those slopes in Bovel, under the ground, says Rashi, there's a whole system, unbelievable, or there was a whole system of pipes and aqueducts that would travel up and up the mountain from Bovel to Eretz Yisrael under the ground. Subterranean water with subterranean water system of pipes, and they would come from Bavel up and up and up to Eretz Yisrael. And most fish manage to swim under the ground. I actually checked it today. Also, there are fish that can swim and live under the ground. They can live in caves or live in dark places. And those fish, what do they do? Mehadri Maya, yeah, before the fish, the actual water goes back from Bavel all the way up to Ein Eitam. Ein Eitam is a very high place. Ein Eitam is a place which is actually higher than Beis Hamikdash. From Ein Eitam, they would have water to Beis Hamikdash. Ein Eitam was a very high place. So most fish that went to Golus, Huf Mem Hey Amud Beis, were about 10 or so lines from the bottom of the page, more or less. Line starts with the word the Omarav. So the water would come under the ground, under the mountain, through the slope of the mountain from Babel to Eretz Yisrael, all the way to the highest place of Beis Hamikdash, near Beis Hamikdash and Eitam. The high, why is Kulis Espanin singled out? Why didn't make the journey? It did not make the journey, the Kulis Espanin fish, because it doesn't have a strong backbone. You need to swim against the tide, literally. The Kulis Espanin doesn't have a strong shidra, doesn't have a strong spine. It can go up. So Kulis Espanin is really a very weak fish, maybe tasty, but weak. And therefore, it could make aliyah back to Eretz Yisrael. To make aliyah to Eretz Yisrael, you need, you need to be strong. You have to have a spine, swim against the tide. Can't go above water? Not above the water, no. It can go against gravity. It can swim, more and more under the ground with the stream that goes against gravity. Some fish can manage to go up water, up the stream. And Mr. Kulis Hispanin is too weak for that. Now, question number 2 that was asked by the Amoraim. Why is it that the way it seems to the Amoraim, the Moyadim, the Miyomim Tovim in Bavel, always seemed happier, merrier? People were more happy in the Yomim Tovim, while in Eretz Yisrael, Yom Tov doesn't seem to be like such a big deal. And in Bavel, it is a big deal. Why is that? Should be the other way around, right? Eretz Yisrael is more holy, and the Moyadim are holy. Answers Rabbi Yochanan. What did they say? Remember, the previous answer of the Meroim was why? Because they said in Bavel they're poor. Because they're poor, for them Yom Tov is more significant. Rabbi Yochanan says no. Because Bnei Bavel, they were not under the original curse that the Kodesh Baruch Hu cursed Bnei Yisrael living in Eretz Yisrael. Dichtiv, it says in the Novi, Hashem particularly cursed Eretz Yisrael Yomim Tovim. Why? when they went to Golus, when they were misbehaving in the times of Beis Hamikdash Rishon, what? No, Rishon, the Nevi'im were Bais Rishon. What does Hashem say over there, as quoted by the Novi? Vishbati, I shall be mashbita, I will stop, shvita. Vishbati, I will stop. Kol mesoiso chaga chodsho v'shabota v'chol moedo. Yeah, all the chagim, Rosh Chodesh, Shabbos, all the moed, I will put a stop to it. Meaning, HaKadosh Baruch Hu was angry with the fact that Bnei Yisrael misbehaved during the Yomim Tovim and Rosh Chodesh and Shabbos. During Beis Rishon, there was terrible things over the Zorgil, Orayas, Shrichas Domim. Hashem said, I can't take that. I'll have to take away your Simchas Chag. But that only applies to be people who didn't go to Golus in Eretz Yisrael. Those who went to Golus, it doesn't apply to them. Uksiv, Chodshechim u'moyadechem son nafshi, hoyla l'toyrach. Yeah, your Rosh Chodesh and your Moyed, I hate it. I hate your Chodesh u'moyadechem, hoyla l'toyrach. They're like a burden for me. Now, very, very beautiful idea by the Maharsha. Now we're going to begin to understand what's going on here. Chodshechem u'moyadechem, says the Maharsha, it says your Chodesh and your Moyed, yours and not mine. You keep the Yom Tov. You're not like those people who are completely off, who behave like behemoths. You keep it right, but you do it for your own oinig, not for Hashem. You eat your beautiful Yom Tov meal, your blinches and Shavuos, your nice, matzah bowls in Pesach, but it says Chodshechem. Listen to the both of it. Your Chodoshim, Moadechem. You do it for yourselves, not for me. And that was the mile of Bnei Bavel, maybe, that did it L'Shem Shamayim. Bnei Eretz Yisrael did not do it L'Shem Shamayim. They enjoyed Yom Tov for the boich, for the stomach, for themselves. L'Shem Mitzvah Shabbos, eating like a behemoth. So they do it for themselves. And that's why, why Toirach? What does Hashem mean when he says, "Oh, it's a burden for me. It's a hassle for me to deal with those Yidden and Yom Tov"? What does it mean? Hashem is no Torah. Nothing is too hard for Hashem, right? It's not enough for Bnei Yisrael that they sin in front of me. It's a tircha, so to speak, for me. I'm angry with them for two reasons. They're sinning, and subsequently, they're causing me to be toreach and find this or that particular gzer shava to bring gzer kosha, a harsh decree to bring upon them. So very nice sefer, Geffen Poria. Somebody, I think, a recent Achron, he said it's kivyochol. Nothing is hard for Hashem, but Hashem is the merciful Father. So if he has to punish us, it's hard for him. That's a tircha. Or he says, what kind of gzer shall I bring upon them? The type of gzer, what kind of punishment shall I bring them for not obeying Yomim Tovim properly is hard. Why? Because on one hand, he doesn't want to kill them completely. He doesn't want to kill the Chag completely, but he wants to punish them. It's very fine-tuned, fine balance between punishing without killing them completely. So what was the punishment really? What kind of punishment did Bnei Yisrael in Eretz Yisrael received for not respecting Yom Tovim properly, for behaving in a selfish way for their own Simchas Chag? Amar Bitzchak. Actually, doesn't talk about Shemitah. Yesterday we read the whole parsha about the punishment of Shemitah, and you have a point. Here it's talking about Yom Tovim particularly. Amar Bitzchak, En lecha kol regel v'regel shelo bata boleshes letzipoiri. Each and every regel, each and every chag, there was always a police search in Tzipori. Boleshes are the police that are searching. You have a searching squad coming. That's not pleasant, right? The guy's eating a nice Sudas chag with his family. A very harsh knock on the door. The guy's kicking the door, looking for, I don't know what, money for loot, for this. Terrible. Yes, so, and Tzipori, where's Tzipori? In the north of Eretz Yisrael. Some people say it's Sfas, some say it's not Sfas. Tzipori, there is a parish that say it's Tzfas. Tzipori is about an hour away from Tveria, but you see that Eretz Yisrael was punished in a harsher way for not keeping the Yomim Tovim. V'amar Rabbi Chanina, en lecha kol regel v'regel shelo ba leTveria, also in Eretz Yisrael, same idea. Each and every Yom Tov, who would come to Tveria? A very nice guest. Agmoin v'kamton ubaz moiro. Agmoin is like Hegmon, is like an officer. Kamton is also like an army officer. Ba'al Zmoira, even worse, it's on the Meforshim, it's a person it's a violent person. He has a Zmoira, remember, we saw it before. Zmoira is a stick. The one holding the stick, the one hitting people. Like the police today, they like to hit the Haredim all the time. Yeah, the bat. They have clubs. Yeah, so that would happen in Yomim Tovim in Eretz Yisrael. You could say maybe Eretz Yisrael is a klola and Bavel is not, because Bavel already were punished by going to Bavel. Those who stayed in Eretz Yisrael were not punished by Golus, they were punished because the Gzer of Eretz Yisrael remained. The punishment decreed upon Eretz Yisrael to have said Yomim Tovim stayed in Eretz Yisrael. Those in Bavel didn't suffer from that Gzera because the actual exile was the punishment of itself, maybe. So they don't have to suffer in Yom Tov. They're suffering all the time for not being in Eretz Yisrael. Maybe. Next, please. Mipnei ma Talmidei Chachamim shebeBavel Mitziyonim. Why is it Talmidei Chachamim in Bavel are Mitziyonim? They look different and more distinguished. They are better looking. They're very well dressed. Why is it the Bnei Bavel, we said, Talmidei Chachamim, we spoke about it last time, why are they Mitziyonim belevusham? Mitziyan is, marked in a good way. Yeah, it looks very smart, very spiffy. The ones in Bavel looked much more elegant than the Talmidei Chachamim in Eretz Yisrael. And the question is why? So originally we said why, because they're not such big Talmidei Chachamim, and therefore they at least have to dress nicely, to be respected. Mani b'nei Eretz Yisrael are such gedolim, nobody cares what they wear. And imagine yourself today. Whatever, up until recently, when Reb Chaim Kanevsky didn't have to dress nicely. Everyone admired him. You have a regular rov, you want to be presentable, you have to look smart, so people should listen to you. Now, Rabbi Yochanan says, no, that's not the reason. He says, no. The reason why the Talmidei Chachamim above will have to dress smart is because they are out of the natural place. They're out of our habitat, so to speak. A Talmid Chacham belongs in Eretz Yisrael. They are not actually in their own place. They're in exile. That's why they have to dress better. Nobody knows them. Nobody cares about them. And therefore, they have to dress nicely so people should relate to them in a more respectful way. As people say, there's a proverbial sentence here. It says, B'mata shamoi, B'loi mata totvoi, motmata city. In my town, in my hometown, in my home field, where everybody knows me, in my hometown, B'mata shamoi, my name. Yeah, you live in a place, people respect you for you are, for your own name. Yeah, here in the neighborhood, you say, I don't know, Rav Kornfeld. Everyone knows Rav Kornfeld, right? He's choshev, even if he doesn't dress, he does. I'm saying, he's a choshev man, everybody knows him. For example, Rav Perlstein, Rav Davidovich, everybody knows Rabbanim of the neighborhood. You mention the name. Oh, somebody respected. Beloi mata tudvoi. But if the same people go to a faraway place, I don't know, New Zealand, I don't know, they go to a place where nobody knows them, beloi mata, then they have to dress nicely, mechubadik, rabbanish, so people should really relate to them. Yeah. To market yourself as a Talmid Chacham, the people can ask you and you can teach them. If you're not known for who you are, at least you have to dress nicely. That's why in Bavel they dress like that. Or I saw in one of the other Meforshim in the back in the Achroinim, the Bnei Bavel did not respect the Talmidei Chachamim that much. Not they themselves, the Talmidei Chachamim. The Balabatim in Bavel were not respectful enough of Talmidei Chachamim, so they had to dress better. Meaning they were out of place, there were more Balabatish Sviva, people were not so Machshiv Torah, so they had to dress more nicely. Yeah, they had to dress nicer. Makes sense. I look today in some places, yeah. Some very Balabatish, very modern place. The Rav has to look very Mechubadik, otherwise, what's he doing here? Yeah? We all know. Haboy Miyashresh Yaakov, this comes to support what we just said. So before it, the other Maroim said, let's just summarize. Other Maroim said that Talmidei Chacham in Bavel are not so great, and not as great as one in Eretz Yisrael. This opinion says no, they could be as great. Elamai, they have to dress nicer, because here, unfortunately, they have to market themselves. Doesn't mean that there are less of Talmidei Chachamim. It's the environment who doesn't recognize them. According to that, we understand the following statement. It says here in the Novi, Haboim Yashresh Yaakov, those who came to Bavel from Yaakov Avinu, I mean, his descendants from Eretz Yisrael came to Bavel, Yashresh Yaakov, they begin to Lashrish, to take root in Bavel, Yotzit Tzuporach Yisrael. What does it mean, Yotzit? Yotzit Tzuporach, they make Tzitzin Uprochim. They make all kinds of flowers and shoots and flowers to Torah. Tani Rav Yosef, Elo Talmidei Chachamim shebeBavel, shoysin tzitzim prochim LaTorah. Talmidei Chachamim sheBavel, the first generation came to Bavel, Yeshresh, they took root over there, and then the Talmidei Chachamim became very great Talmidei Chachamim. They're not less than the ones in Eretz Yisrael. Talmud Bavli. We better believe that because that's the Talmud we learn all the time. Yeah. So since the Talmidei Chachamim in Bavel are actually, yes, marked as those who did Tzitzim Prachim, they beautified the Torah. Our Mashgiach, Moshe Shimon Weintraub, told us, B'Shem Rogachover, B'Shem, one of the Gedolim from before the war, he said when Mashiach will come, we'll be able to tell him, everybody who learns Torah, Mechadish Chidushim, will be able to tell him, we have ois gepitz the Torah. We have beautified the Torah. You gave us Torah. What's a Torah? Just a Chumash. I mean, superficially speaking. We beautified it so much, so many chidushim, so many halachas, so many gematrias, so many chidushim, amukim, nifloim, all that. You would come to Mashiach and say, from the beginning of Golus till now, look how much more Torah we have. Then I saw a very, very nice word here. I think it's in Sefer Iyei Hayam. It's looked in Sefer Iyei Hayam. It's one of the rather early Achron. Rav, I don't remember the name. I actually saw it now in the name. I don't remember. And he says, very nice. He says, what's the difference in Yaakov and Yisrael? Aboim Yashrash Yaakov, Yotzitzupoch Yisrael. Yaakov always relates to the people in Am Yisrael that are lesser. Yaakov, Akev. Akev is the heel, the feet, the foot. Yeah. In other words, Yaakov is the simple people. Yisrael are the more choshev people. Aboim Yashrash Yaakov. Even the simple Jews, as long as they keep halacha, they have the shoyrish, they have the root. But they don't have more than that. They keep the basics. They keep the basics. That's Yaakov. But the Israel, the Talmidei Chachamim, which are soirim with Hashem, those who are like a sar, like a minister of Hashem, they have tzitzim u'pochim. They grow much more than the basics. Yeah, where do you want to be? That's the thing. Yeah, there's the basic Yaakov. Yisrael is like Yotzit Porach. All the flowers, all the beauty. That's Yotzit Porach. Very nice. Yeah. Now, why is it that the Kechovim are mezuhamin, unclean? What really means, it really means that I saw that in I saw so much stuff everywhere. I don't remember already who says what. Could be also Yayam or could be somebody else. He says a very nice idea which I'll follow through. Mezuhamin doesn't mean physically dirty. Yeah, you look at Shegitz and a Yid, not necessarily dirtier. Yeah. Although it's interesting, statistically, I once read one that statistically speaking, Israelis, even the non-from ones, they take more showers and keep personal hygiene more than even Western Europeans and Americans. Yeah, personal hygiene. I'm not about the way the streets look. Yeah, the streets are also sometimes okay. In other Jews and Israelis, even if not so, they are known to be cleaner than other people. Yeah. Yeah, what you know? I hope YouTube allows me to keep talking if they say such things. But anyway, so now, but Mezuhamin really means more physical. Zuhama means that Yetzer Hara that you have in your body, they're more sensual, yeah, more gashmiastic, more violent, more physical. The physicality is very, very prominent in a way that's already like Zuhama, more than us that are spiritual. That's Mezuhamin. But why is that so? That's a question. We're going to discuss our irreligious people later. It's a good point. We're going to discuss it. Because of the Kechovim, Shavuos is coming. Other Kechovim did not stand on Mount Sinai. Not everybody knows. One of the nasty things that happened with Nochosh, not only Nochosh convinced Chava to eat from the Eitz Hadas, we all know about that, he also had Bia, he had relations with her. The Nochosh then looked like a human being, that says many places, yeah, and he enticed her, so Nochosh had relations al Chava, and what happens in Tashmish? Something goes in, right? So you know what he did? He till Bazuamo. As he did that, he created an internal Yetzer Hara in her. Like his Zera was all Zuama. He's Mamish Yetzer Hara. Nochosh is Yetzer Hara par excellence. He's Yetzer Hara, pure Yetzer Hara. So that Yetzer Hara, Mamish injected his Zuama in her, and last time I checked, she's the mother of all human beings. So both, potentially, both Jews and Goyim were all full of Zuama from her. What is Yetzer Hara? That confusion we have all the time. We have internal Yetzer Hara, all the tivus that we have that we it's hard to control. And both Jews and Goyim had it all along. Up until when? Israel shomdu al Sinai, poskazu amoson. The Kochavim shalom al Sinai, lo poskazu amoson. Israel, we stood by Har Sinai and we received the Torah. And there was a complete cleansing of everything. All the handicapped people got better. It was a whole new rebirth of the world. Yom HaShishi, we learned today, Daf Pivov Pezayin, the whole Matan Torah, the world up until Matan Torah it was questionable whether the weather should stay or not. It was like a wobbly thing, right? It was on condition that Bnei Yisrael will receive the Torah. So when the Bnei Yisrael received the Torah, it was like a new renaissance. It was the recreation of the world when they received the Torah. Everything was cleansed, but only who for? Those who stood by Har Sinai. The Goyim did not stand by Har Sinai, and they remained Mezuham, meaning they didn't have the spiritual cleansing. That's the idea. We were cleansed, we were cleaned by what? By the fact that we were Bar Sinai. And they were not. They were not there. They were affected indirectly, it says, but not directly. And they remained what? They remained not spiritual. They remained mizohab. They're physical. Physical when it comes to tivus, physical when it comes to violence. Look at what's going on today. Don't have to look very far. Look how going look today. Show Mishmo. What kind of world we live in? And Gvul. So now, very interesting. He says something very, very nice. I saw one of them before Shemidaf Peizayin, actually, Peiches, that Zuama of being very physical can be very good. Yeah, let's say you want to fight, you want to be a fighter, you need a grobegoy. You know this expression, they say a grobegoy. Yeah, people say it. If you like a guy that's usually Jews are not so musculous, not so strong. The guy, he's right. Get a grubby guy to deal with it. Yeah, he's the gorilla who's like the bodyguard or the boxer. Yeah, it's usually not Yidden. So we, Bnei Israel, when we were standing by Har Sinai, we're so close to Hashem with the zchus of Torah, we don't need to have that physicality. Hashem would look after us. Then it says either Iyayam or the other one. Remember, Mashenkin, if you don't keep the Torah, Akiva, that was your question. If you don't keep the Torah, you lose on both ends. You don't have the natural tendency of a guy to be like a chay, like some like a boxer, some this. And on the other hand, you're weaker because the Jews are weaker, and you don't have the koach haTorah to protect you. So korech mikan u'mikan. Yeah, that's what's going on. Why do our soldiers menatzech many times? Because of the Torah. The only reason why the IDF is what's there because we have the yeshiva bachrim who are behind them. According to this very interesting pshat, what would you say about Gerim? In other words, if you're telling me there was one point in history where there was a big cleansing from Zuama, was where Har Sinai, the Gerim, they were not there. Meaning, we understand at this point the reason why you and I are Baruch Hashem not Mezuham, because our forefathers were on Har Sinai, and we got their genes. We were born from them. Good, said it, very nice. And therefore, we are children of those who are purified in Sinai. But a person who is physically, with all respect to all the spiritual business, but if the Ger, if Tim McKenzie becomes Avraham McKenzie in 2023, yeah, Lamaisa, his fathers were not in Har Sinai. So he comes physically from somebody who's physically mezuham, dirty, yeah, contaminated. What is he going to do? And Gerim are not dirty, chatz v'shalom. Gerim are beloved brothers. How do you reconcile that contradiction? Amarlei. So he answered, Lavashi answered, Afagav the inu lo havu, mazlayu havu. They were physically not there, inu mazlayu havu. Their mazel was there, and the Sfasema says their some kind of like ruach. The ruach was there. The neshama, the potential neshama of the game was in Har Sinai. Yeah, and that got cleansed. There were physical people who were there. My alta zedi. I don't think I'm a ger at any point. I don't think so. Yeah, both my parents in the Holocaust, so I don't think I'm a ger. Yeah, so all the way through, what are we? Yeah, Yidden. So that's physical. A ger, my good friend who's a ger. What about him? So his neshama was in Har Sinai. Both physical and spiritual. Everyone was in Sinai and they were cleansed. Here comes another amazing word. Es asher yesh noi po imonu oimed hayom lifnei Hashem Elokeinu, ve'es asher einenu po omed imonu hayom. Yeah. In other words, the Torah says, look, that covenant was given to both Yeshno po imonu omed hayom. Both people are standing with us today in front of Hashem in Sinai. Ve'es asher einenu po. Those are not with us. Who are those who are not with us? And I can make a covenant, people are not there. Elamai, that's the Gerim. The Gerim were not with us. They were not with us, the Gerim, but they were. Meaning they were not with us physically, but they were there spiritually. It's a very, very nice report. Listen to this. One of the Achronim that I saw says, what does the Torah have to say? It's a sheresh no That's clear. Obviously, the bris that Hashem is creating with Klal Yisrael does affect those who are standing here today. That's not a chiddush. Yeah. What the chiddush would be, even those who are not with us. Why do you have to say the chiddush, those who are with us today? So it says very nice. Both parts of the psukim talking about those who are not there physically, future generations. The future generations are imanu oimed dayoim because the fathers are. So I'm here. My great-great-grandson is also here in potential. Physically, my genes in my body create my great-great-grandson. So when we say Yeshnoi po imanu dayoim, it's a chiddush. The chiddush is that the bris does affect future generations of the who of the Jews. Einenu imanu dayoim is those who are not here at all physically, not here and not in future genealogically speaking, but they are here in their soul. That's Einenu po imanu dayoim. It's just the neshama of the ger. That's very nice. Weiter. That idea that the Zuama only stopped in our Sinai, that disagrees with Rav Abba Bakana. Rav Abba Bakana, Ad Shlosha Doros Leposka Zuama Mavoseinu. The Zuama of Chava did not leave our Avoseinu, our forefathers, for 3 generations. Avram Olidit Ishmael. You want to know why Avram had Ishmael? Well, now you know. Ishmael is the result of the Zuama. Even though Avram did a great tikkun of finding a Kodesh Baruch Hu and spreading Emunah, monotheism throughout the world, but Avram still had within him Metzias of Ishmael. Why? From the Zuama. Yes, from back then. The Shtikal Zuama went to Ishmael. Yitzchak only the Esav. Yitzchak still had the Shtikal Zuama from where? From Esav. Yeah, and not from Esav, from the Zuama, from the original Zuama. And that brought about Esav. There was a result of the Zuama. Yaakov, Yaakov only did with Shvatim. Shelo ben shum doifi. Yaakov, he fathered 12 tribes, 12 Shvatim that had no doifi, that had no blemish in them. That the Shvatim did not have their own inyonim with Mechiras Yosef and Reuven and Bila, etc. But that Zuama, that mamash, being like a dirt meshukatz like Ishmael and Esav, being a Ishmaeli or a Nazi, these things we don't have yet. That Yaakov Avinu Chas v'Shalom had 12 children that were all of the Hashem. They didn't have the Zuama anymore. That's machlokes. So that opinion holds that that's when the Zuama stopped, and the other opinion holds that Zuama stopped in our Sinai. The emissaries I read somewhere, but I did not understand what I'm reading, so I will just tell you in general what I read. It was too deep for me. There's a certain level of Zuama to reconcile, certain level of Zuama already stopped where? By Yaakov. Another level of Zuama by Yaakov and his children. Another level of Zuama, which is more fine-tuned, only stopped in our Sinai. Yeah? In other words, they still had another tikkun. Maybe, by the way, I'm just theorizing, maybe that was, and I did hear it once, that the Yerida to Mitzrayim was to purify with the fact that, of course I read it, Adam Arishon had relations with, like she had, he also had with Sheikh Vazer Lavatola, with the Lamed Yud Taf, with a female Shena. So all the terrible Sheikh Vazer of Adam Arishon for 130 years, they had to be metakin in Mitzrayim. So that's very good. A certain level was ready Metukan by Yaakov and his children. Why did they have to go down to Mitzrayim? Why couldn't Hashem bring it somehow differently, right? Elamai, they had to go down to a place of Shmutz with all the nisyonis of Yosef and all their nisyonis of the Eden to bring up to clear out all the Zuama from themselves. They had to go to a dirty place, dafka, to work harder, and they were not influenced by the goyim. It says in Tznius they were good, the Yidden. They were other with the Zorah, they were not so good, but in Tznius they never had relations with a goy or a goyta. What? Yeah. What? Except for Shloim, he said even she was mistaken. One out of million, that's very praiseworthy. Right? So you see. So you see they were metak in a certain level of Zuma and Mitzrayim, and then in Arsina they were completely pure. So there are levels here. Yes. What are you asking? Louder, louder, louder. Are people in Torah anytime also want to hear? Yes, Adam, when he separated from Chava, he went and he befriended the female Sheda, a female demon, and being with her was like Zera Lavatola, was like, it wasn't good, yeah? Didn't have a nice, he didn't create with her a nice koilel family. Weiter. We didn't get to the Mishnah. What? So many questions. 1 second. I'll be with you soon, our viewers at home. Yeah. David, the tzaddik, is asking a question. I'm trying to reconcile both opinions, and the Gemara says that it disagree. It's all over Rishonim and Achronim, it happens, at least in Achronim. There are two different opinions to argue. The Poshup Shad argue. Many times we, looking from a different perspective, can try and somehow reconcile the opinions, even if they disagree. I see it all the time. All the time. When you read the Forshim, you see there is a disagreement, maybe which was more important, more significant. He was right, also. Anyway, so we didn't get to the Mishnah. I'm so sorry. So opening bottles and cans will happen tomorrow. Yeah, the new Sugi Bezos Hashem.
Then I think it was Rabbi.
Before we get to Rabbi Yashi, there's much more before that, and then we'll get to Rabbi Yashi, Bezos Hashem.
Whether or not you just open up the bottle cap or you got to put a hole.
Kufman Vav Aleph in the Mishnah. Be here tomorrow because tomorrow, Bezos Hashem, we'll start the Mishnah Kufman Vav Aleph about opening cans and bottles on Shabbos. That's Rabba. What?
Coca-Cola banned this one.
No, Coca-Cola should get a commercial for Coke. Yeah. Right. Thank you very much. Thank you to everybody in Torah anytime. Whoa.